lot of people say it's all about race. If you don't mention race, I won't mention race.
And the reality is, when I mention it, I'm talking about specific examples of people I know that are just unfamiliar with some things.
Right. And I think that begins with that conversation we started. The people that you know who are unfamiliar. I don't really have a lot of conversations with people that are unfamiliar about what we're talking about.
I do. I
I
in the
sit with
circles,
people that talk about agendas
and there's nothing wrong with that. There's
and
nothing wrong with that.
purposes for discussion.
There's
For
nothing
the
wrong
very
with that.
simple fact, one of the feedbacks from the African American community that we work in is, so what's the point of discussion? What we gonna do?
And
How is this
I
discussion going to change anything? If not, I ain't coming.
and typically that's why um a lot of times your destination of a perspective that you have, if I'll just say for me, right? If I have a destination of a perspective and how I want things to change, then what I'm always going to do is I'm going to attract opposition.
True, and opposition is always going
I,
to be there.
I don't need opposition. I want there in the middle of everything, there is an ability that we have as human beings to interact with each other and strive to understand each other so we can find common ground.
Right. And in that
I'm
finding of common ground, it must be common that there's going to be opposition.
opposition is, but you know what? Opposition can fall off. I'm not addressing opposition.
Like think
If
about
you want to be,
how
if somebody
awful
wants to be
Donald
opposed,
Trump looks. Think about, for instance, how awful a person Donald Trump seems to be, that everybody knew about. That
well,
didn't deter them from voting for him.
I should say most of us who chose to learn. You remember people say out there, I don't care about the man, I'm only about the policy.
Show me, like I said, I tell
You
them,
see,
okay, then let's talk
the
about policy.
same people don't even know the policies.
Exactly. So they're just liars, which is the reason why I ain't sitting around talking to them.
Yeah, I can't say, like I said, I don't choose to label people. I choose to try and
I
hear
don't
them out.
label them either. I just watch
The,
how they act.
and one of the things I guess I got impacted years ago with Franklin Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It says seek to understand before being understood.
Right.
So, and I'm gonna throw this caveat out there. So I met people years ago who claimed to be atheists, right?
Mm-hmm.
And didn't want nothing to do with church.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but at the same time, they were my neighbors. So occasionally
Mm-hmm.
when our kids were in school and maybe it was raining outside, they might run into these people's houses that was close to the bus stop. Now, those people, when I found years later, those people aren't atheists. What they were doing, they was raised in a Pentecostal house. And they saw how Pentecostal people was one way in church and one way in public, but they was another way in private. They wanted these young people wanted nothing to do with that. And then when they became teenagers, they began being thrown under the bus and called all sorts of names of harlots or whatever else. So that same environment they were raised in actually rejected them and became untrue. So what they determined that they didn't want to be involved with religion, but they still have the capacity to love. So for me, I just tend to not come in with any absolutes about anybody. That's the only thing I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about humanity. So if we can learn to listen to each other and we come away from interactions with each other, right? We can come out with positive. What I found is that the negativity and the opposition, it usually falls off because it wants to stay with the blue pill, right? Where they just exist in their world and that's cool. If they want to wise up and come to the game and lend their part, fine, they're welcome. I don't waste my effort and energy on opposition. That's the only thing I'm passionate about. I invest in everybody. I believe in everybody's potential to be good and be positive contributors to society. And I realize that that's weird. It's not an easy thing to try and do either. It come away with
Well, all I can say is I'm certainly not with that way of thinking.
no,
I'm
but
not.
that's okay. But you know what? That's a blessing because everybody's not. We're all different human beings.
Right. And
And
it's just to me is that one, I don't need to like when people say, well, all cops aren't bad, then I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the bad ones. I'm
in
talking
order
about the bad ones. Why would I be talking about the good ones? The good ones wouldn't come even close to what we're talking about because they don't do what the bad ones do.
no, but
So when I hear somebody say, all cops aren't bad, and what does that have to do with the conversation?
and my big thing is okay. They're not all good. They're not all bad. But guess what? If you there's some in between that are conflicted where they see something going wrong and rather being having the courage of their convictions, they let it happen because they feel powerless.
It sounds like complicity to me.
It's every I think everybody is different. When you if we understand the power that we have to be influential in our own within our own abilities, then we begin to see more positive outcomes. A lot of people have this opinion right now about what's going on in the world is like hell in a handbasket. But because of people I'm involved with, I'm beginning to see that there is a shift where some more people are becoming more encouraged to be themselves, to be the goodness in the world versus lending power or allowing the negative influences in society to win. There are efforts, more efforts to get to commonality of thought, being respectful. Because when we begin to respect and listen to each other, uh, it seems like people who have it wrong can sometimes, when they're not approached aggressively, can sometimes walk away from a thought process and says, you know what, I didn't think about it like that. But their pride, the first thing that jumps into them is their pride. Like, you don't think like me. I think like this. You're wrong. And when you approach them in an aggressive fashion, it calls them stupid or whatever else negative. All that does is elevate their anger and their apathy because they feel disrespected. But I have found that when I listen to some people, then I ask more questions of their perspective. Then I begin to find that there's more common ground than initially thought. And that's why you and I always vibe because I always listen to you and you always listen to me. We don't have to come to a common ground of how we approach things because we are uniquely made through our own experiences and through our own family lives and through our values that we've developed over years. And we both know that each of us is a good person, I think.
So if a person pointing the gun at me, I shoot them. What do you do?
I don't know that I can't even follow that logic, my
See,
brother,
that's the difference.
because no, because in my world, I don't have to answer that verbally.
You don't. You
Because
don't have to say
no,
nothing.
here is my thing. See, what it is with me, a lot of times if I'm confronted with something that's like that's gonna evoke a, confrontational or that language that has to identify something negative, I just don't speak it into existence because I
That
know what
works
I'm
for
going
some
to do. I don't
people.
need to talk about what I'm going to do.
Right, that works for some people.
Yeah. So that's why I didn't
For
have an
me it
answer.
don't. For me it
Right.
don't.